Good day, everyone. My name is Danica Stubbs, and the topic for this research is assessment of soil salinity on the islands of New Providence and Grand Bahama. Firstly, in order to understand the purpose of this specific research, you would have to know what is soil salinity. And soil salinity is the total concentration of soluble salts in soil solution consisting of soluble and dissoluble salts expressed as electrical conductivity. Salinity interferes with the biological uptake of nutrients and water, which intrudes on the specific physiological functions necessary for the development of plants. Now, within the Bahamas, agriculture and backyard farming are prevalent to small families. However, due to many saltwater and seawater intrusion, farmers are unable to maintain or even produce crops. For example, on the island of Grand Bahama, many residents are unable to grow crops they once could have before the impact of Hurricane Dorian, which brought flooding and many saltwater intrusion. Therefore, this research seeks to assist those on the islands of New Providence and Grand Bahama, and also many islands in the Bahamas, because we are constantly experiencing increased prices on food items and also recently a number of food shortages. So, with allowing farmers to be aware of the soil salinity levels, it can not only assist with selling crops to farmer markets, but it can assist with spreading the farming industry. This research can also be beneficial as there has not been many studies done to determine the soil salinity of the landscape across each island in the Bahamas. Therefore, this will not only benefit farmers but also future researchers within the Bahamas. However, it is important to note that soil salinity has been tested and studied in other countries such as India, New Zealand, and Turkey. So, to address this serious issue, I will be conducting an assessment by collecting a number of soil samples from different areas on both New Providence and Grand Bahama and testing the soil salinity. Research questions include: what are the soil salinity levels in Grand Bahama and New Providence? 2. What is the average soil salinity level in Grand Bahama and New Providence? 3. Based on the soil salinity level, which island is more sustainable for large crop production? 4. Which areas in Grand Bahama was severely impacted by the hurricane, and do these areas have high levels of soil salinity? The main aim of this research will be to assess the soils that have been affected by saltwater intrusion on the islands of Grand Bahama and New Providence for soil salinity levels. The objectives will cover determining which areas will be chosen to collect soil samples on both islands and analyzing if they have been affected by any intrusion. 2. Comparing and analyzing the soil salinity levels on the islands of Grand Bahama and New Providence. Note that in this case, I will be comparing the salinity to an island that was severely impacted by a hurricane to one that was not. 3. To record data in a sufficient manner that would allow overseers to understand clearly what are the soil salinity levels on each island. Graphs and tables will be utilized to show comparison, and maps will be used to mark specific landscape of where the soil samples were obtained and tested from. The proposed method will firstly begin with collecting soil samples across the gradient of Grand Bahama and New Providence. Soil will be obtained from specific depths utilizing a soil sampler, then placed in Ziploc bags to be labeled based on their area obtained from, and stored for further procedure. Additionally, it is intended that 12 different soil samples will be collected from each island. Once the field research is completed, that consisted of collecting soil samples, these soil samples will then be tested one by one. The first process will be allowing the soil to dry, which will minimize potential problems like contamination. After the drying process, the soil is then sheathed to remove any debris. Then, using what is known as the EC 1 to 5 test or electric conductivity 1 to 5 test, the soil salinity will be measured by the 1 to 5 ratio, which consists of 1 volume of soil to 5 volumes of distilled water. Lastly, by utilizing the electric conductivity meter, the soil salinity will be read digitally. All data will then be recorded on Microsoft Excel or IBM SPSS statistics. Note that using these two softwares will allow better organization of data collected, and also these softwares allow easier creation of graphs and tables. Upon doing this research, it is expected that on the islands of New Providence and Grand Bahama, where soil samples are obtained for testing, the soil salinity will be intensively high because they are surrounded by seawater. In addition to this, the island of Grand Bahama numbers will be slightly higher because they have recently been impacted by a Hurricane Dorian that brought many seawater intrusion and flooding. To conclude, being aware of soil salinity levels are very important, especially for those in the Bahamas involved in agriculture and backyard farming. This study will assist those after compiling all data collected from testing soil salinity levels on the islands of New Providence and Grand Bahama. Not only those islands, but other islands, because crop production can increase when farmers know exactly where is the best landscape or area to plant their crops. In addition, this can also help future researchers in the Bahamas that are interested in soils. Furthermore, this research is expected to start in August 2022 and conclude November 2022. The anticipated results will conclude that there are high levels of soil salinity across both islands of Grand Bahama and New Providence, but Grand Bahama experiences higher numbers than New Providence due to their severe impacts.